Hello, and welcome to From Upside Down to Right Side Up, Tips for the Transition. I'm Maria Tomas Keegan, your host, and this is my continuing series of interviews with strong, resilient women who have an inspiring story to tell, and they are courageous enough to share it with us here. I'm excited to introduce you to my next guest, Alison Rand. Hers is a health journey that I know will mean something to other women. I know several women myself whose health has declined, and they haven't been able to discover why. So Alison shares her story with us so other women may find some hope in their own journey. Hello, Alison.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. We're calling this episode My Hashimoto's Nightmare. So I want to thank you so much for being here and letting us in on what should have been a joyous time in your life, but that led to a very difficult time. So would you share that story with us?
Sure. My story, really starts back in high school for me. I'm going to be 43 this year, and my journey really starts about me wanting to be a mom. And I always knew I would be a mother. I always knew I would stay home and raise my children. And I didn't know in what depth, but I knew that was important to me, and that was part of my lifetime of what I would be doing and what I would be giving of my gifts. And so in high school, I really had a connection to international adoption. And it was so important to me that when I was, in my young 20s, and I was starting to think, okay, I'm going to start dating with intention of marrying and more of the, starting my dreams. I knew that isn't something that is for everyone. And so on my first date with my husband, I kind of laid it all out there. I said, I want to be a mom, and I want to adopt, and I want to stay home. And how do you feel about that? And do you want the same things I want? And surprisingly, he didn't run away, being that this was a first date. But he was also like, wow, finally, I'm meeting someone that knows what they want, is not playing games. And ultimately, that attracted him even more to me. And so we dated and married 2 years later. And at that time, I'm 26 years old. And at the time, to adopt from China, you have to be 30 years old. You have to be established. You have all this criteria that you need to meet. And my husband was over 30, but I wasn't. So it's that long waiting game even more now. That was really hard, but it also showed me how badly I wanted this. And it gave me the time to mature even more, to grow in our marriage. And, there is an expense involved, and it helped us to be prepared for that. So that has been the beginning stages of more of what I really wanted. And so now I'm 30 years old and starting this journey of becoming a mother. I have never carried a child. I don't know what that feels, but I felt I was carrying a child in my heart I don't know if that can make sense, but I was an emotional roller coaster. I was going through such a deep connection with a picture, with a just, wondering what my daughter is doing right now because I can't be there. And what it was really hard to know your child is alive, but yet you can't be parenting that child in that time. And then you get that wonderful phone call that it's time for you to go and meet your child. And oh my goodness, I was 31 years old. I was ready. But with adoption, there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of, you have to really be prepared for the unexpected. And even when you think you're prepared, something just throws you and you're not expecting it, and you just have to keep going, through it, because at least I did, because this was, I was manifesting this since I was in high school and it was happening. So we come home from China with a 25-month-old. There is no time to transition, slowly into becoming a mother. It is, active, and that took a toll on me. It really took a toll on me. I don't know what postpartum depression feels like, but I almost felt like I was in that in some sense, because I was so happy, but yet I was like stressed out and not knowing how to deal with all these feelings, and everyone's coming at me with, do this, do that, but yet nothing is resonating with me. And it's easy for people to say that over the phone that haven't experienced what I'm going through. So that was hard. I started to go down a path that didn't make sense with all the years I have dreamed of this. I couldn't understand why I was feeling this way and feeling almost lonely, because no one could relate to me, and other than my husband, of course. But he was at work. I think I resented that he got to go and escape and got to go out and have lunch. And I didn't get that. But I loved my daughter, and I knew that I would push through this, because I do believe that this is part of my journey. I believe that these struggles were something that I could work through to then on the other side be able to help others and not know that they're not alone in this journey.
So Alison, tell me a little bit more about the health. How did your health start to decline? What were you feeling, and what was going on with you there?
Yes, initially I had no energy. So my daughter, this was her, she woke up at 5 a.m. every day and wanted a meal immediately. And then would go to bed sometimes at 11 at night. And I was like, what is going on? This child needs to sleep. But this child also, was coming and transitioning from it's a lot of change here. And so my energy was depleted. I was napping when she napped. I lived in sweatpants on the sofa, as much as we could be just lounging. that was our lifestyle for way too long. But it was necessary for me. And the energy was the biggest piece. I started to gain weight, and I think that was from not being active. I was in some form of depression. I mean, I was never diagnosed, but I was definitely not feeling good about myself. And this was.
So did you work through this malaise that you were feeling that with doctors, and what did you do about getting some idea about what was going on for you?
So I initially would go, for my annual checkup, would tell my MD what's going on. And she would, oh, you're just a new mom. You're just not adjusting well. And that was like the worst thing you could tell me. Like, wait, what? I am not. That did not describe me. I mean, I understood in a sense what she was saying, but that was not an okay answer for me.
Right.
And that was, I don't think you should tell that to any mom. I mean, that is just heartbreaking. So I just kept continually going to doctors. I ended up with a naturopath. That was the best fit for me. And ultimately getting to a diagnosis of having an autoimmune disease, which is Hashimoto's. So in that moment, I get this diagnosis. In one sense, I'm relieved, like, phew, I'm not crazy. There is a reason why I'm feeling this way. At the same time, I'm thinking, oh gosh, this is a lifetime diagnosis, is how I heard that. And so now it's, what does this mean for my future? What does this mean for my day-to-day life? What does this mean for my children? Because I'm not the mom that I want to be in this moment. So it was that relief, and then that, oh no, what does this mean?
Now, how long did it take you to get that diagnosis?
Years. Yes. And it wasn't until having the right labs done that showed it. Doctors kept just looking at one aspect of my lab work, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm just the patient. And it wasn't until someone went deeper and more tests that there it was there right away,
Interesting.
So, yeah.
And I remember you're telling me that during this period of time that you were feeling so badly and having low energy and gaining weight and all of this, that you actually went and adopted a second child from China, didn't you?
We did. My husband went alone. I stayed home with our daughter. But yes, we did adopt 2 years after our first adoption. And, why would you do that if you're feeling this way? But I also knew that this was a temporary, even though it took years, this was a temporary feeling in what I was going through, because I knew I wasn't going to stop looking for answers. And so I knew I wanted more children. I knew that growing my family was important to me. And so it was a right fit, even though it may not be conventional to do it when you're not feeling well.
Yeah, indeed. I'm sure there were a lot of people saying to you, "What were you thinking?"
But I had love. So even though I felt awful, I had so much love. And so I didn't not, anyways, this was a temporary moment, and I'm glad we're on the other side.
I'm inspired by that, because you have had this vision for so long. You weren't going to let anything stop you from, as you say, manifesting this family, this adoptive family that you from a young age. felt very connected to. I know that not everyone listening will, who is not feeling well and doesn't know why, will have the same diagnosis of Hashimoto's. But the struggle to regain your health and the emotional roller coaster you went on during that time, all the while trying to keep up with 2 young children, it's likely to resonate with other women. So I'm so happy that you've joined me here and are sharing this Hashimoto's nightmare on the one side and the joy of being an adoptive parent on the other. So what I'd like to do is ask you to take a deeper dive in our next segment into that emotional roller coaster that you talked about, so that other people can maybe resonate with those feelings and how you overcame them. Would you do that with us?
Yes.
Terrific. Thank you so much. And everybody else, stay tuned, because we're going to get deeper into that emotional roller coaster with Alison. Hello, Alison.
Hello.
Welcome back, and thank you for letting us see behind the curtain of your life with the adoption that was such a big part of it, and then struggling with your health and being diagnosed with Hashimoto's. So I'd like to talk now about the emotions you went through on that journey. So would you share what you were feeling as you went through it, and let us know how you dealt with all of those emotions?
Sure. There are a lot of emotions, a lot of so many struggles, and some of the things I was dealing with on a daily basis. I mentioned the no energy. I wasn't getting proper sleep. So that made me very irritable. I feel like I'm a very patient person. I'm very gentle with my children, but I was, I wasn't necessarily patient during that time. And so it was almost like who am I in this moment? Because this isn't who I am. This isn't a reflection of, how others see me. And yet in my home life, it's my safe zone. So I kind of let my guard down. Whereas when I would go out in public, you just put on that smile and, you just push through it. But I was starting to not go in public. I was going less and less, because I was essentially isolating myself, because I just didn't feel good. I didn't like how I looked. I had gained a lot of weight. My skin was, many people thought I had rosacea. I had eczema on my hands so severe that alone made me not want to leave my house. That condition, wow, I didn't want to have people over for me to cook meals. I didn't want anyone to see that these hands are serving food.
Mm.
That was honestly one of the most challenging things for me, is because that's something you can't hide. You can't put a smile on eczema. And I couldn't go around wearing gloves in Phoenix in the summertime, so that was hard. On my relationship with my husband, my goodness, he's a blessing to me, that he didn't understand nearly half of what I was going through, but he was there as best as he could and supported me in whatever road I needed to take to find the answers I needed. So, and my children don't honestly remember a lot of this time. We were just talking about this yesterday, and I'm like, oh, that's a blessing in itself, that they don't remember mom the way I remember mom. And I think it's just because they were young. They were, very young, and now they're almost 11 and 13. So that's been wonderful, because mom guilt is real. I mean, that's a real thing. And I'm glad to know that I didn't leave those scars the way I thought I was.
So tell me about the journey through those emotions while you were going through them, and the frustration you must have felt in not finding the diagnosis for 5 years. That's a very long time. And it is a blessing that your kids don't remember that. But you do. And you wouldn't be sharing this story if you didn't want to help others by virtue of sharing it. So tell us a little bit about how did you overcome those emotions, the guilt, the frustration? How did you overcome those?
I cried a lot silently, in the bathroom, where you can escape. I journaled my feelings, because there comes a point where you do think, I didn't think I was necessarily, crazy, but you're like, am I crazy? Like, this is. So lots of tears, lots of journaling, because I needed to see patterns. And so when I would see a doctor, it's like, no, look, this is all going on. This has been going on for so long. And, I needed to try to get to the root cause for myself, and just know that, I love to journal in general, but to be able to see patterns, and that was really beneficial for me. And, I slept a lot at that point. So here I used to go from not being able to sleep, and now my kids are getting older. My husband's able to be home more. So that was, for me, part of my healing journey, because I think I was so exhausted for so long. I just needed deep sleep, and that was self-care for me. And I didn't see it as anything more than self-care. And that was a huge part. So tears, journaling, and getting that sleep. So when I was with my children, with my family, I had more energy for them, instead of being depleted for 18 hours a day, essentially.
Wow, those are just great. Thank you for that. Journaling can be such a cathartic thing. Just recording. It could be videotaping, or you're talking into your iPhone or something. Just journaling it in some way, keeping a record. I love that you did that, and that it helped you to share, to remember and share with your doctors exactly what was going on. Like you said, finding the patterns. So you've been so transparent about this emotional piece of it, Alison, and I appreciate that so much. And I am certain that in our next segment, there are going to be some beautiful lessons that you're going to share with us. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear them. You've shared a couple of tools and techniques that you've used here with the journaling and allowing yourself to cry. But I want to get to those lessons, what I call the golden nuggets. So we're going to do that in our next segment. Loved saying that we save the best for last, because I think when we share the lessons we learn, that's where it provides people an idea of how they can move along their own journey if they're on a similar one to yours. So I can't wait to hear the lessons you've learned. Would you share those with us?
I'd love to. The biggest lesson for me has been to listen to my gut, to that we all have, that feeling if something isn't right, and if something resonates with us or feels in alignment. And if I had not listened to that, I wouldn't have gone to another doctor, or possibly. But because I knew, like, no, this doesn't make sense. I'm not just a tired new mom. I have something real going on inside of me, and I need to figure out what that is. And so I think it's easy to look at the expert and say, oh, that's what they said, and just go with that answer. But yet, if you have something nagging at you, you owe it to yourself to figure out what that is, and don't give up until it's not nagging anymore, because then that's been the answer for you. So that has been the best thing. The communication. When I was irritable with my family, that is a form of communication, but that was not the best. And when your family loves you, just, they're going to love you even when you're irritable. But looking back, I think, okay, I could, a big lesson for me is that this moment is not forever, and let's not ruin, this moment just because of it's better to respond instead of react, basically. So I have, my husband and I, we've been married 16 years, and we're in a better place today than we have been even from our day of marriage. So these times brought us to the best time that we're in right now. And I feel like that has been a huge thing to remember, that no matter what you're going through, these days are long, but the years are short in a sense. Like, this isn't forever, and there's light if we look for it. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's really beautiful the way you put that. I love that. So getting in with how you feel, and knowing that if doesn't feel right, trusting that. You call it your gut. There are so many other words for it, that it's our intuition, it's our inner wisdom. Whatever you call it, trust it so that it can guide you through. I love that. And then the communication piece. I love what you said. The days may be long, but the years are short. Time flies, and being reactive instead of responsive that's a really good lesson. It's a really good thing for us to keep in mind in every situation, right, that we're in, as life just happens to us.
Yes.
So those are two great lessons. Do you have any others?
So for me, as far as for the parenting aspect, is I can tell my children, even though they don't remember a lot of the bad days that I was going through, I still talk about them. And this is more about the communication piece, but I want to be connected to my children in a way that they can come to me with any feeling, any thought. So if something does come up, or they can come to me and say, hey mom, whatever they want to say, and know that this is, again, we're one unit, and we all function our best when we're supportive and loving and kind. And that is a huge thing for me, especially with my parenting aspect, we need support as parents. Our children need our support.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's just my biggest thing, because I never want to shut them out, because what they have to say is important. And if I don't listen to the small things, they won't come to me with the big things.
You're so right about that, Alison. I love what you said, and I think, if I may kind of reframe it, what it sounds like to me is you are walking your talk, and you are, because you care so much about your children and how they grow up thinking and feeling. You are setting like a shining example for them by sharing your own feelings, the journey you've been on, how you felt at the time. Sharing all of that with them gives them permission, because you've opened up to them. They'll even though they're young teenagers, they get it. They get more than we give them credit for, I believe. And I think you're just setting such a wonderful example for your kids. And I'm so thrilled that you are sharing those gifts with others.
Thank you. It's
That's
important.
Great.
Yes, we all need community and support.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And I appreciate so much that you have had the courage to talk with us so candidly about this, and for your resilience to not give up on your own health and seek those answers, and to do it all because you wanted to be this loving mom that you imagined you would be from the time you were in high school. So I just love that. And I love that you are so focused on helping others, not only on their health journey, but also with adoption and the parenting process around that, being adoptive parents. So Alison, thank you. Thanks so much for sharing all of that with us.
Thank you.
And for everyone else, thank you so much for watching. This series of interviews is inspired by my latest book, Upside Down to Right Side Up, Turning Transition into Triumph. My book, its companion journal, and these conversations are intended to share stories from the heart and life strategies that can help others. I invite you to share these with the women in your life, so none of us will ever feel like we are alone. Many of us have gone through similar experiences, and we're here to help. I believe it's our time to thrive. Will you join me in that? I'm Maria Tomas Keegan. Till next time.